Yes, good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, September the 16th. Today we continue our discussion of the ancient world by talking about a new people, the Phoenicians. Yes, the Phoenicians were a people that really don't get mentioned a lot in the history books, which is really terrible because their contribution to mankind has been completely invaluable. And it's important that you understand this because it will occur on your test. So, in fact, remember, what is the most important of mankind's invention? Answer one, agriculture. What is the second most? And the second most is written language. And that is what goes in part D. Their invention was written language. But let's talk a little bit more about the Phoenicians themselves. The Phoenicians do get mentioned, for example, in the Old Testament. They are referred to as the Canaanites, for what that's worth. They were a people who lived all across the Mediterranean. Fact of the matter is, forgive me, and yes, this is the one. Yes, that one. And that helps us better. Yes. Yes, that is ancient Phoenicia. Now, they were centered around here, but the Phoenicians were sea traders. They were the first sea traders of the ancient world. And not only did they trade far and wide across the Mediterranean, but the thing about the Phoenicians were they would adopt bits and pieces of culture from wherever they went. And I mean, this map is not good enough because the Phoenicians actually went up into the Black Sea as well as going out the gates, the Straits of Gibraltar into the Atlantic. But yeah, they were all over. They went all over the place. The Phoenicians also mentioned prominently in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And the Phoenicians had a curious custom, and that custom was one of sacrifice. Anything that the Phoenicians undertook, took on, was always accompanied with some kind of a sacrifice. The size and preciousness of the sacrifice generally varied according with how important this thing that the Phoenicians may have needed was. For example, if the Phoenicians were planting a crop, they might offer up a blood sacrifice, a burnt offering of a small animal, perhaps a dove or something like that. But and this was true, and the Phoenicians placed cities all across the Mediterranean, with probably the greatest city being right here, Carthage, which we'll talk about when we talk more about the Romans. Yeah, the city of Carthage. And the Phoenicians, when they moved to build a city or to take on an endeavor like that, their sacrifice, and by the way, the God they sacrificed to, his name also mentioned a lot in the Bible, Baal, Baal, also called the Lord of the Dead, the Lord of the Underworld, the Lord of the Flies, if you call that book. Yes, Baal. And when the Carthaginians would build a city, they would often place inside the cornerstone, and this has been found, inside the cornerstone of the city, the cornerstone of the city wall, they would have a hollowed out chamber, a small chamber, and in it they would place an infant child, and as a sacrifice. And oftentimes, this child um, was quite alive when he was sealed into that case. Yeah, but aside from all that, so what did the Phoenicians do? Well, the Phoenicians created what is called written language. It was their invention. Now, one of the possibilities, pay attention, one of the possibilities of a short answer question on your test will be for you to discuss the evolution of written language. Here, very good. So how did written language evolve? Well, and this is going to be the only thing we talk about today, but so it's very important. First of all, you have to understand why written language was so important. Think about this. Before the advent of written language, written language allows us, and you're writing, written language allows us to communicate across space and time. You say, what does that mean? Well, imagine this. You have a friend who lives in California and his house is not burning. And you write him a letter or an email. And he lives 3,000 miles away, or he's on the other side of the world. This morning, for example, I have a pen pal with a young, I'm a pen pal with a young lady who lives in, wait for it, Kathmandu. Yeah, Kathmandu. Saying, where's that? Nepal, the base of the Himalayas. And she and I were communicating. She's a teacher too. She and I were communicating back and forth. It's the most amazing thing. How could we communicate? I mean, we didn't get on the phone. We didn't, of course, we used a cell phone. We didn't get on the phone and video chat or talk like that. We wrote messages. And because this young lady can write and understand English, we were able to communicate that way. So that's one way, space. I was able to write a message that a young lady across the, literally on the other side of the planet, could understand. But it also transcends time. For example, if I were to write something, put it in a capsule, which any historic place always has time capsules, put it in a time capsule, seal the time capsule, and then leave it alone for a day, a year, a century, a millennia. When that time capsule was unearthed, then the people, if they knew the code, if they knew the language, the people who unearthed it could know whatever it was I wanted to say. Time and space. That's why it's so important. That's why written language is so important, that a person can write down their thoughts and make their feelings known, and it can travel across time and space. Because before the advent of written language, before that, A person's communication could go no farther than as far as they could yell, as far as they could scream and be heard. You know, I mean, yes, they developed other types of communications, smoke signals, drum beats, things of that nature. But written language, you know, made the communication accurate. And so let's begin with written language. Where did it come from? Well, we've already visited some of the first written languages. The first written languages were cave paintings. Now, in fact, let's talk about the evolution of the letter C. Okay? The letter C. Well, before the letter C evolves, once again, let's go back to cave paintings. A person of this era, the Cro-Magnon era, the Neanderthal era, would see a creature, a cow, that was large, and so the person would draw the cow in its entirety: horns, head, hoofs, body, tail, and then would paint it. And of course, the next person who saw that, oh, look, this person saw a cow. That's interesting. And over time, you know, the problem with such communication is a picture of a cow means a cow, and that's it. Over time, though, the meaning does begin to change. For example, in ancient Indian Harappan civilization, the term cow began to acquire more meanings, such as in ancient Harappan civilization, the word cow was equated with wealth. In fact, the ancient Harappan Sanskrit word for war meant desire for more cows. I'm not lying. But you know what? The problem with drawing a picture of a cow every time you wanted to talk about a cow, it was cumbersome, it was tedious, you had to be a decent artist, you know, it took a long time. And so what artists began doing is they didn't just draw the cow, they drew the thing that you remember about the cow. The business end, the horns. And so for a long time, symbols of the cow was just the head of the cow with the horns. Yeah, true. And eventually, let's do some crude technology here, Mr. Orton. And eventually, you see my cow head there? Eventually, that became the symbol. But what happens over time is that these symbols became more, see that? And more streamlined. Yeah, and this is how the letter C evolved. And so the symbols became more streamlined. In fact, we begin to see this kind of writing in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. By the way, hieroglyphics, Sanskrit, cuneiform, yeah, they're all going to be on your test. Hieroglyphics, Sanskrit, cuneiform. And then, of course, that the Phoenicians finished the deal. Well, so yeah, this symbol meant cow, but it also meant other things. For example, in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, pardon me, this is a common symbol in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Now, my bad art aside, you can tell that is an eye. Well, in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, a picture of an eye not only means an eye, but it also means to see, but also to know. And so the point of the matter is these symbols began taking on more than one meaning. The symbols became more and more, use this term, more and more abstract. See, this is not abstract because it's, you can see it's a head. This is abstract. You see? Not abstract is abstract. You know, you can't tell that this C here that I have my finger on represents a cow. Now, that goes on for quite a while. And here's where the Phoenicians come in. It's called the genius step. The Phoenicians took the genius step in the evolution of written language. And what was that genius step? The Phoenicians broke down all human sounds, all human utterances into 22 sounds and assigned each sound a symbol. K, as in cow. And then to make words, it was simply a matter of, and I said 22, not 26. It was simply a matter of arranging and rearranging the various symbols to create words. Yeah. By their sounds. Wait a minute. Sounding out words by the sound of the letters. What is that called? When you were a little kid in Shirley Mann Elementary, didn't they teach you about that? They called it phonics. Where did they get that word phonics? You don't think, do you? Not the Phoenicians. Hooked on phonics works for me. Now, story's not done yet. Now, so the Phoenicians created this 22-letter alphabet. The ancient Greeks, our next civilization, they adopted the alphabet and added 4 vowels. 22 plus 4 makes not 26. This is just too incredible. And after the Greeks, the Romans adopted that same alphabet. They adopted the Greek alphabet, the Romans adopted that, and the Romans used it in writing their Latin language. Now, and that Roman or Latin language, how many of you take, for example, Spanish? When you look at your Spanish homework or German homework or French homework, are the letters not the same? And the reason is because after the fall of the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church kept the written language. And there you have it. Yes. And that's why that alphabet that was created by the Phoenicians is so important. No matter what language, pretty much, any of the Western languages, be it French, German, Swedish, Spanish, any of the Western European languages, use that 26-letter alphabet. Thank you, Phoenicians. And that ends us for today, boys and girls. We will pick up tomorrow. And we are, look here, we're on Roman 6. I think we're going to start talking about having a test on Friday. Yeah, Friday. Friday is when we'll have our test. Friday. What day are we going to have a test? Friday. Okay, so I'm going to go. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the bangles, walk like, and so yes.